Welcome everyone to this Counterfire interview with Députée Danièle Obono from La France Insoumise. We're joined with her today ahead of the second round of the French presidential elections this weekend. And let me first start by congratulating you and La France Insoumise on coming a very close third in the first round of the election with almost 22% of the vote. In Britain, people may not even know that Mélenchon had such a strong result and came so close to eliminating Le Pen, because our mainstream media have, in the last 2 weeks tried to avoid mentioning that as much as possible. But ahead of the second round of the elections this weekend, recent polls are showing that the kind of gap between Macron and Le Pen is widening, and Macron's lead is moving into double digits. But what they're also showing is that there is a growing number of people who are planning to abstain in the election. And we already saw in the last election in 2017 that there was a kind of record number of people who didn't vote. So I wanted to start by asking you why you think people are hesitant to vote for Macron. Why is he so unpopular, and what has his government been like?
Well, thank you for having me today for this discussion, which is very useful also for us to get our head out of, the immediate issue we have to deal with, but also it's a good way to frame the conversation around the election. And I think it's very important to draw lessons from it, not just for us, but I think for the left as a whole, and internationally, because we do believe that it's part of an international battle that we're having against far right force, but also against the neoliberal, and that every step ahead is a good is a step for everyone. So right now in France, there's expected to be a high percentage of abstention because people feel disgusted by the result of the first round. We came, as you said, we came very close, and the fact that now a good portion of the people who actually went to vote voted for us are excluded from the political debate because it's just narrowed. It's just been there, done that, face to face between Macron and Le Pen. But it's not just a repeat of 2017, because now we've had 5 years under Macron, a very brutal anti-social policies, anti-democratic policies, targeting migrants, targeting Muslims. So it feels like there's no question mark about what Macron is about, like it was 5 years ago. People do know, and some people know in their very flesh, and being harmed during the demonstration, and so there's a lot of anger against him. But hopefully this anger won't turn into a vote for Le Pen, which is very tempting for a lot of people, and we heard it. People who came in, and even people who congratulate us about our campaign and said that there's no way I can vote for Macron because of all he did, and some may be tempted to vote for Le Pen. So that's why it was important for us, and Jean-Luc was very clear about it, to say there should be no vote for Marine Le Pen. We didn't went further than that because we don't want to give Macron a blank check and enable him to say, you see, everybody voted for me, and especially with the campaign you've been having, and the point he focused on was to say we will do the pension reform that was blocked by our parliamentary role, and also by people onto the street who oppose that, and is very arrogant, and it's not the best campaign you would think that should be led to oppose the far right. Actually, one of the problem also is that the past 5 years, I've seen the Macron actually campaigning to have Le Pen as his only opponent for the presidential election. He actually said it. He wanted her to be his opponent because that's the only way he thought he could win. So they've been normalizing the far right. They've been, including implementing some of the policies, especially the anti-migrants and the Islamophobic policies that his majority at the parliament voted and the government implemented. So it weakened the anti-fascist talk about people to say opposite when you see someone who have been actually pushing them and giving them everything for them to be where they are. But so I think a lot of people are disgusted by that and feel like this is not our problem anymore. And we, the majority of the people said that they didn't want to have a repeat of 2017, a repeat of Macron versus Le Pen, and then we got it. So I think that's why there may be a high rates of abstention because of that.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really useful. And kind of following on from that, I mean, like you said, Macron really kind of legitimized Le Pen in quite a big way. And we've also seen kind of in the media, this attempt to sanitize her a little bit and, almost she's a feminist and she's just a woman with her cats and all this kind of stuff. And in the debate last week, she tried to kind of really detoxify some of the things that she's known for saying and pitch a little bit to the left. But let me ask you, like, what does she actually stand for? What is the truth and where do you think she's getting support from?
Well, she actually stands for the ruling class. Actually, she opposed increasing the minimum wage. She is now wobbly about the pension reform because she actually agreed to with the status quo, which is 62 for the age of retirement, when a majority of the people are for a return to 60 years for retirement, which used to be and which we've been campaigning around. So a majority of the people want to get back to that. She doesn't, and she wants. So it's antisocial policies that she is proposed. She has in her program anti worker representation and very pro-business. Actually, she is like, economically and socially speaking, she doesn't have very many contradiction with Macron, and you could see that even on the subject of cost of living, when there was the debate a few days ago between Macron and Le Pen, and she had nothing to say actually, and she was very weak on those issues because she actually agrees with Macron policies on the economic and social issues. I would say that you get this aspect, and also the fact that she only, during the debate, it was very striking because she became alive when the topics were around migrant issues and religion and Islam, because of the media and the political landscape is so focused on those issues and obsessively and very, very problematic way they deal with that. But she only came alive when dealing with that, with a very also far right stance about it, and being anti-migrant and anti-job and all those that. One of our main proposal during the campaign and right now is to say we're going to ban the women wearing the hijab everywhere. And so that's the only thing that she actually pushed forward forward in order to make a difference with Le Pen and trying to appeal to, the racist and xenophobic vibes that have been, amplified for the past 5 years by Macron himself, and with the surge of Eric Zemmour, and trying to appeal to that side. But really, she is, we say that, like, she is the life insurance of the system. If Macron is the system, she's the life insurance of the system. That's about it. But her appeal, I think her appeal is that she's been, at the same time, it's very contradictory because she's been legitimized by the media and everything. So the far right and all the anti-democratic and anti-social and xenophobic aspects of our program, our platform, our policies have been, diminished. So the reaction is not as strong, especially with the surge of Eric Zemmour, who is very, very blatant about those hardcore far right topics. So at the same time, so those aspects for Marine Le Pen have been played down by all the system. But at the same time, because they've been there for like decades now, and it's like this little pop and mom, not really pop and mom, but it's a family business. So she still has this sense being like against Macron and against the system, and because she has been portrayed of being the main opponents by Macron himself, I think she benefits from that. And people are so fed up with Macron that she benefits for this anti-Macron reaction and pseudo anti-system, legacy she has as being part of the Le Pen family business, and the idea that for in the a lot of people's mind she's still like outside the system, even though she is not. But I think that's what she benefits from, and the appeal she can have on unemployed people, or even some working class people, and especially people who want to punish Macron and the entire system for what they've been living the past 5 years.
Yeah, and like you were saying that Mélenchon was very clear that there should be no votes for Le Pen, but he's also come under a lot of criticism for not openly backing Macron and telling people to vote for Macron. So why do you think this is the right position to kind of oppose Le Pen but not suggest people vote for Macron?
Well, because I'm very comfortable with that, because it was the same position we had 5 years ago, and we came under a lot of criticism from that. But in the long term, it was very a good position, because people realized that we've been opposing the far right for a long time, forever. So when it comes to actually taking stand against fascists, taking stand against racist attacks, and stuff like that, we were actually the only one during the past 5 years who actually, opposed. We went to the only one demonstration that was organized in order to oppose Islamophobia, when there was a far right actually attempt at attacking a mosque, and we were the only one, and we were like demonized for that. But we stood strong on that, and over way before that, but even during the past 5 years, we showed that we are actually the one doing the work. So it's not just in between, presidential election, in between rounds of presidential election, that everybody discovers themselves of being like anti-fascist, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. And I think people realize that, and the media and some of very bad faith political actors can badmouth us, but the people actually know that. But I also think that it's very important, because it was very important, because among the people who voted for us, for our program, for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, there's a lot of different positions. The only thing we said that no vote should go to Le Pen because it would be it's the antithesis of everything we've been fighting for. So that's the one line that we keep repeating, like just 5 years ago. But beyond that, the problem is that people are divided among our electoral base and among even the activist base, and we don't want to split or to create tensions among ourselves when we should be united, because we did a great campaign, we did a good result, and we need to keep getting stronger for the next elections and the next battle and the next working class, fights we need to have. So it's also about keeping us together and being respectful of, okay, we had three choices when we did our internal voting, position, and there were like either you abstain or you vote blank or you vote Macron, and it was evenly the result was like 1/3 for each, and it's like that's the situation. So we don't want to look down or trying to say like to put the finger to some of our own who would not go to vote for Macron for very good reasons, or want to abstain and stuff like that. So that's the other reason why we want to keep this line, and also not to let Macron off the hook, because we don't support his policies, we don't support it, like his program, and we don't want to let any doubt about to keep that people doubt our position regarding him. So I would say that that's the main reasons why we took this stand. And as I said, we had the same position 5 years ago, and people on the long run said, okay, I respect that, and it was a good thing, because when we opposed him, it was clear that we were the main opposition, and we were not, just unclear about our position toward him. And since we actually did the anti-racist and anti-fascist work, it was the most coherent position, and I think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and I think in the media and maybe for people in Britain, they don't realize just that the extent to which Macron has kind of prepared the ground for Le Pen to get stronger in normalizing and pandering to her policies and all the rest of it. And like you were saying, that compared to the last election, people now know exactly what Macron stands for, what kind of things he will do. So we can take a slight step back from the kind of second round of the election. And as we were saying, you did really, really well in the first round. And I followed a little bit about your campaign in the run up to the election, which, had these big rallies and seemed very exciting, and a lot of enthusiastic campaigning. And I wanted to ask if you could tell me a little bit about what the campaign was like, and what were the kind of key messages that you had, and the layers of people that you reached.
Well, yeah, it was a very inspiring campaign, because we've been learning from the past campaigns. I've been campaigning with Jean-Luc Mélenchon and all the comrades for like 10 years now. I think our first one was 2012, and now we got this experience from the past campaigns. We got an incredible experience from the past 5 years as a parliamentary group, because it gave us even more focus. It solidified our program, which is the core. We said that the program was the real candidate, even though Jean-Luc Mélenchon was a great spokesperson and was a great candidate, and I don't think anybody could have done what he did. But so we have, you know, this clear and very solid program, and that's what anchored everybody, and especially the new people who came into our campaign. I think that's the difference. We took a step further in how wide the campaign was, and the diverse people who came on board with us from the start. And I think that's one of the main achievements of this campaign, because we managed to build this people's union, what we call it, union, or popular union, l'Union Populaire. That's actually the target. We want to build this popular people's pool. Now that we see how the political landscape is divided in three, you got, as I said, the far right, the neoliberal, and us. And us, we managed to build this because we also showed during the past 5 years that we were the most coherent opposition, but we could also work with NGOs, we work with trade unions to fight in the National Assembly and make a lot of bills, a lot of proposals. And so we really legitimize our position. And I think that's what make a lot of people from the social movements, like Aurélie Trouvé, who is a former president of Attac France, a prominent anti-globalization organization, and trade unions, and a lot of leaders in all the social struggle and all the social big social fights. You got a lot of, for instance, healthcare workers and also a lot of cleaners on strike who join us and stuff like that. So I think that's make it a great dynamic, because we're also able to organize. I think we organize over hundreds of public meetings with all those people. So we really grew in experience, in strength, in the wideness of our dynamic, and we have a great spokesperson, and we had a great candidate who really, I think, as I said, the position we took over the past 5 years, I could give at least 3 examples. I talk about the demonstration against Islamophobia, which was very important, especially because we came under so relentless attacks, even from people so-called on the left, who attacked us and demonized us, but we stood strong. You had also another turning point, I think, was during the Yellow Vest movement, the fact that we were very first, and among the few left organizations who actually supported the Yellow Vest movement from the start, and also stood our ground when the Yellow Vest movement came under repression, under demonization also. And you had also this other moment when you had this demonstration led by COP's organization in front of the National Assembly, which was, some of them were saying like we should take down the constitution, and it was very, very threatening. And we were the only one who didn't took part in this demonstration. And I think for a lot of people, when you see how we have a lot of emergency laws and a lot of setback in democratic, freedoms and civil liberties, and have been under attack for the past 5 years. And the fact that we took this stand, not taking part in this demonstration, it also was a turning point for a lot of people to see that, it wasn't just all talk with us, but we could also, walk the walk. And I think that's what made our campaign so appealing to a lot of people, and outside the activists, outside of political people, I mean, citizens who are already interested in politics. The fact that we get such great results with first-time voters, with the youth, and stuff like that. I think it's also thanks to what we did during the past 5 years, and how vocal Jean-Luc Mélenchon has been, and always, never surrendering to any pressure, and the strength of our program with the three main focus we had was about social emergency, and cost of living and rising, minimum wage, with a strong environmental program and something like a Green New Deal, saying that we have to face, climate change, and we have to change our entire economic, social structure, and which made us, the Green, actually, Jean-Luc Mélenchon was the Green candidate, and all the NGOs involved in environmental issue actually said that our program was one of the greenest, I mean, on par with the Green Party program, and we were like as good, and on some issue even better than them. So I think it appealed to a lot of young people, especially those involved with the climate change movement and stuff like that. And the third main theme of our campaign was about democratic rejuvenation, or something like, we could say that, with the idea that we have to change also the institution in order for them to reflect the society we are now, and the fact that people are they are just abandoning politics, not because they are not interested in it, but because they are disgusted. And we have to change also the institution, in the idea of a sixth republic that would be more democratic and stuff like that. So I think that, those are the three big themes of our program, which were really solid, and who may help us convince a lot of people to vote for us.
Yeah, I think that sounds really impressive. and I think, what you were talking about in terms of kind of being embedded in the social movements and taking those principle stands is so important. And for example, like the stand you took on Islamophobia, I mean, just purely in electoral terms, I think I saw a poll which said something like 70% of Muslims voted for Mélenchon in the first round. So you can kind of see the connection there. And I also think that, in terms of kind of combating the fascist threat going forward, I think that is really important, and connecting those issues with, like you were saying, the yellow vest. And I'm sure if we have a continued Macron presidency, all these issues will still continue, and will need kind of resistance.
If I may add two things, it's like it wasn't very a good electoral stand to have when we actually stood strong on those issues, especially when we talk to Islamophobia, when the entire political spectrum is going so right and even far right, and taking this stand, and a lot of people told us that you're going to lose because of that. So it was not and then it was principle, but in electoral terms at the time, it was not something like would benefit us electoral speaking. But because we did the work, and also because I think there's a disconnect between the media and the political landscape, and how right-wing they are now, and how far right-wing even they are, and the actual state of the country and the people who are not that the far right, even if you could say that when you see the result of the election. I think it's much more much less polarized than that, and we are one of the the actor. It's not just the right with Macron and the far right with Le Pen. We are here, and because we are here, people connected with us. And the other thing I want to point is that there's a lot of people of Muslim faith who voted for us. I think the stand we took with opposing Islamophobia was part of it, but a lot of them also said that they chose because of economic issue, and because we want to raise the minimum wage and stuff like that. So it also shows, because there've been a lot of talk saying like, we won the Muslim vote because, Muslims are just Muslims and they only, as if, and the actual thing is like, they like working class people and they are like, even middle class people and their living conditions are under attack. And those were also the motivation for voting for us. And they are like everyone also very, very worried about climate change and all those issues. So I think I just don't want to narrow it for, all those people. There are a lot of issues and those principle stands helped boost it and make a lot of people go and, because they were fighting also for their lives. And a lot of people told us that it was a vital vote for us for many reasons, because they were under attack by far right and saying that they will be, chased out of their homes because of their name or their faith, but also because of the COVID crisis. And they are like actually people starving in this country, and they were like among the people starving. And so it's a combination, I think, of all those different things.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And yeah, and I mean, I think if I can kind of end on this, I think you've kind of really described a really great way of combining these things and both the kind of electoral and social movement aspects and kind of really connecting with people. And what I want to ask is, obviously we've seen the kind of radical left in other places, largely in retreat. We've seen after kind of Corbynism in the UK, with the Bernie Sanders movement in the US, Die Linke in Germany, and others. There's been a lot of kind of disarray on the radical left, and seeing your success has been a real boost for us, I think. So what do you think are the kind of lessons that we can take from the way you have operated in what we should be doing, and kind of, bringing together these ideas of electoral representation and the social movements and struggle?
Well, I don't know if it's very difficult to draw lessons like that can be applied everywhere, because obviously the contexts are different. But first of all, I have to say that we've been looking and really learning from things happening elsewhere. So part of our strategy was also helped by, not by the failures, but the lessons of what we saw happening in the UK, in the US, the way, for instance, the media were attacking Jeremy Corbyn and even Bernie Sanders on lots of issues, and those movements, and what happened there was also very inspiring for us. So I would say first that people are still there. I mean, the political, representation may show differently, but the people who voted for Jeremy Corbyn, who supported Jeremy Corbyn, have not disappeared. And I think that's what we always kept saying ourselves during the campaign, in that the anger against Macron, the fact that, two of the main social movements who happened during the past 5 years were one of the biggest social movements happening, whether the Yellow Vest movement in a very unconventional way, but also the pension reform movement. And when we started the campaign, all the people, Socialist Party and the Greens and all that were already, shaming about, beyond the presidential election. They said it's lost, Macron will win, the far right has won, and we can only, play a small role. And we stood strong. We stood strong in saying, no, those people were onto the street, those people who, voted for us 5 years ago, they haven't disappeared. I think so. Just to remind yourself that, and to develop, strategy to reach out to them. What we did is build really a network of people, doing door to door. That was, I think, how we managed also to appeal to working class people and go to them and do this, door to door. We really developed a lot of campaigning on, grassroots campaigning like that, that showed, and also that showed us that we were on the right track. Because when the media were talking, about, from above and what they wanted to see happen, which is Macron, Le Pen and stuff, on the ground, we could see and we could feel something different. So the connection, stay connected, is another thing that's very important, and that we're gonna deepen in the next week and month, because we still have the third round and we're not defeated as long as we fight, and especially in the next month we got the legislative election. So we want to build on those strengths, and I think it could be helpful everywhere. So beside that, I would say just staying strong on your principles and not bow to any pressure from the media, the ruling class, and even people so-called on the left, because what we managed, I think what we did, which is unprecedented, is that to build such a high vote around radical left measures, because in the past it was more like a social liberal or social democrat. In 1981, for instance, when the left won, it was more a social democrat left. And the difference is like we are now we are the center of this pole, and we are like radical. And to me, it's what makes the difference, staying strong on principles and on your program, and make no you may compromise, but no compromission. I don't know if you say the same in English, the difference, but the core of your platform, being radical, won't be a problem for the people if you're clear on your issue. Because sometimes we have to temper down a little bit on the radical ideas, and feeling like people won't agree with that, but actually people want clear ideas, even if they are radical. If you're clear on what you want, and people can get convinced and are convinced by your ideas. So, yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us today. And we wish you all the best in the legislative elections and in the struggles ahead with everything going on. And thanks again. And just to say that Danielle will also be joining us at our Revolution online event on the 25th and 26th of June. So please join us for that. And just thanks again, Danielle, and all the best and solidarity.
Thank you.